Hi, this is Jordan,
This is Tisin.
This is Annie.
and this is a video for our climate change project. Our general topic was about how public transport in London is combating climate change. During our first few weeks in London, we were captivated by the elaborate transit system, including the tube, iconic double decker red buses, bikes, and taxis. In comparison to where we are from, Vancouver, BC, and Bangalore, most people either use cars or walk to get around the city. As a result, we are interested in examining the strategies and advancements London has implemented in its transportation system to combat climate change.
London has created multiple action plans to address climate change. One of them is the London Environment Strategy, published in 2018. Transport for London has a pivotal role in delivering the London Environment Strategy. One of the most notable environmental improvements to the transport system is the creation of ultra-low emission zones. The implementation of the ultra-low emission zones allows cyclists and bus lanes to be prioritized, which allows more zero-emission buses to transport thousands of people daily around the city. Certain vehicles that do not meet the emission criteria in these zones will also be charged. Transport for London is also largely responsible for significant elements, including reducing waste, climate change adaptation, reducing carbon emissions, and delivering an increase in green infrastructure.
Transport for London also has its own climate change plan. We found that most of their goals were related to reducing emissions. For instance, the mayor is working to ensure London's entire transport system is zero emission by 2050. London also aims to reduce the dependency on cars and increase walking, cycling, and public transport to 80% by 2041 to help reduce emissions caused by traffic congestion. As a consequence of the toxic air caused by carbon emissions and particulate matter, thousands of Londoners are dying prematurely. They are children with permanently stunted lungs caused by the toxic air, but also adults with health issues such as asthma and heart disease.
In many parts of London, the bus is the only credible alternative to a car for journeys that cannot be walked or cycled. A declining bus network would cause more people to rely on cars to get around. This would lead to increased congestion, making conditions for people walking and cycling less safe and attractive. As a result, emissions would increase and negatively impact air quality. Given the importance of buses in London, we wanted to study more about its history of addressing climate change and its future plans, aka the Bus Action Plan. This leads us to our research question. How have strategies and technological advances London has used in its bus system reduced emissions, and how successful have they been over time?
London has a bus fleet of around 9,300 vehicles operating across 675 routes. There are around 50 bus stations and more than 19,000 bus stops. London created the double-decker bus as buses became very popular, and they had to design the bus in a way that could navigate through the narrow streets. On our trip to the London Bridge bus terminal, we noticed that London primarily uses three types of buses: electric, hybrid, and hydrogen, with a larger proportion being hybrid and electric. In 2021, Transport for London had an electric bus fleet of 500 buses and also unveiled the first hydrogen double-decker bus in England.
This is a graph showing the breakdown of CO2 emissions in London. It appears that cars, large vehicles, and buses dominate the breakdown of road and rail emissions. This illustrates how cars contribute to the majority of emissions, followed by LGVs and HGVs. And even though London's buses transport millions of people every day, they only contribute to 9% of emissions, demonstrating that moving towards public transport, particularly buses, can put London on a greener path.
We were also guided to this research topic as we were able to compare the contrasting transportation methods throughout the world and the corresponding emission rates. While transportation is not the sole variable playing into emissions, it is quite significant. For example, the average fine particulate air pollution is around 40 micrograms per cubic meter in India, a country that lacks a standardized public transport system. There is widespread use of motorcycles, gasoline cars, and HGVs that are unregulated emission-wise. In contrast, the UK's average fine particulate air pollution is around 10.5 micrograms per cubic meter, a drastic difference from developing countries like India. A large contributor to this is the nationwide standardized transport system, including buses and trains. This was a very interesting observation we made that motivated us to explore more about the way buses in London and the overall UK are helping keep the air clean.
Through our research, we want to figure out how successful the buses have been working towards reducing emissions and the reasons behind their advancements. We will use academic research journals and experiments to analyze whether there has been a significant reduction in emissions over time. Furthermore, we aim to intricately analyze the chemical and technological processes that allow London's buses to minimize emissions and analyze its challenges and successes in the past, present, and future. Having used London's buses quite extensively throughout the past month, we've been in London. We've seen how efficient public transport can be and how private vehicles are not needed anymore.